Welcome to the podcast,
Welcome.
Conversations That Count. So today I'm super excited to have Lewis as one of my guests. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you, and good to see you again. We just bump into each other at events. It's like every time it's like, hello again.
Hi,
We're here again. So.
Yeah, it's synchronicities, right?
Yeah.
Like everything happens for a reason.
100%.
Yeah. And I'm excited for the conversation where it's going to go today because you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things inner work, personal development, healing, trauma. You've got a book as well, which is incredible.
Thank you.
So I want to, just go straight into it and just see where the conversation goes because I know it's going to be so valuable. So Lewis, tell me a little bit about you.
I'm a human on this rock, trying to do some meaningful things in the world. I love helping people in a meaningful way. I know that sounds a bit cringe to some people, but I help people find their purpose, find their true self, help show them how to give their gift back to the world. And for me, purpose is your gift to give back to the world. So how do you find your purpose, your true self? How do you remove all those limitations, those limiting beliefs, those traumas, those wounds that would stop you from living out that purpose and giving that purpose back? And that's kind of like the sort of conscious and spiritual side to me.
Yeah.
And then the other side is I'm super practical. I'm very I say I'm kind of Demartini, Joe Dispenza and Alex Hormozi put together, where I've got the Hormozi strategic, practical, hustle, do the work, put the thing, take action. And then I've got like that sort of inner work, healing and like working on yourself, purpose side to me. So kind of blend those two worlds together.
Yeah, which is a perfect blend, right? Because I think you need to have both to be successful as well.
There's like the spectrum of like one side you got your spiritual humans and they're levitating, meditating, saging, crystalline all day, and generally they're super happy and fulfilled. Yeah. But most of them are very broke and they don't do anything. They're just being in the moment. And then you've got your sort of hustle porn people on the other side where it's like grind, hustle, sleep when you're dead. And I literally used to say that as a catch line back in the day. Where those people generally have more sort of external achievement results, but generally very empty, unfulfilled on the inside. So it's like, how do you have the best of both worlds and work hard, hustle, do the things, achieve meaningful things, but also have that really deep sense of fulfillment, purpose, and happiness. So,
how do you actually find that balance? Because you're right, like I know both, and like I'm trying to integrate both as well. Yep. What is balance? And balance is probably like a pretty loose term there as well. But how do you actually incorporate and integrate both?
It's cliche, it's the inspired life method. So it's all of those pieces put together. So for me, it's knowing your values. Your values are the areas of life that intrinsically fulfill you. And people think freedom, honesty, loyalty, integrity, respect, and things like that. Those for me aren't values. They're behaviors and character traits. It's like I always use freedom as an example. I had Dean, who organised this podcast just before he came on my I was on his podcast too. And it's like, I'll use you as an example. Yeah. If I gave you $1 billion right now, US, you instantly have time and financial freedom. Would you watch Netflix for the rest of your life and do nothing else? Everyone says no.
Hell no.
So I'd say, what would you do? What would your answers actually be? If I said that was the situation.
I want to still have purpose and fulfillment.
What would that be though? What would you do?
Well, I think it would be very similar to what I'm doing. So outside the podcast, I also do coaching.
Cool.
And
so coaching would be a value. Keep going.
Yep. Have a business.
Cool. Business would be a value.
Yep.
Cool.
And then also for me, it's experiences and
cool.
travel and grow.
Cool. Awesome. Growth as well. So you just listed some of your values. So those areas, when you do them to the fullest degree that you can, you feel amazing. You feel fulfilled. Low self-worth is feedback. You're not prioritizing your values. So picture that. Yours was business, coaching, experiences, and learning. Pretend you weren't able to do any of those. How would you feel?
Oh my God.
Shit house. 100%. And it would go down self-worth. Low self-worth is feedback. You're not living to your values. So that's kind of one piece of the fulfillment part. The other piece is purpose. Purpose is an expression of your greatest core wound. They do tie into each other because voids create values. So all of those areas of your life would have been a void for you at some level growing up. You would have had pain around pain or void. They can be different or the same around learning, experiences, coaching, and business, or wealth potentially, depending how you categorize it. And your purpose is an expression of your greatest core wound: pain, purpose, wounds, wisdom. So purpose is the big shining light, the big lighthouse, the big target that we move towards. It gives you direction, fulfillment, and an unlimited motivation or inspiration to get there. So the need for motivation is a symptom of an uninspired goal. Like no one had to motivate me to be here today. I could have said no. I wanted to be here. So it's like when you do what you love and you love what you do, like you don't need motivation. So that's kind of the fulfillment part. The third pillar so that's for me, the self-mastery part. So values, purpose, and then mission and vision. So that's the mission is a measurable goal that comes from your purpose. So purpose is intrinsic, fluffy, you can't measure it. Yeah. Mine is to heal and raise consciousness. My mission is a measurable goal that comes from your purpose. Mine is to coach 10 million people to live a life that they love. And then when you have something measurable, you can break it down into goals and strategy and stuff like that, which comes later. Vision is what your life looks like once you hit the goal. So they're on the same time horizon. One is more the measurable goal that all roads lead to the mission. And then vision is like, what do you want your life to look like once you get there? And I use your values to create your vision because they're the things that are meaningful to you. So that's kind of the fulfillment aspect of things. It does also tie into the inner work. That's the other section to my method. And that's where limiting beliefs, trauma, and emotional blocks, where we want to remove those sabotaging patterns, thoughts, beliefs, and things that are stopping you from being the best version of you. The Statue of David quote gets used a lot in self-growth. Are you familiar with the Statue of David? So Michelangelo sculpted the Statue of David. And supposedly, and I did research for this for my book, apparently there's no actual record of this quote, but apparently it's just been credited to him. Someone asked him, how do you make such a beautiful statue? And he said, apparently, David was always in the statue. I just removed everything that wasn't him. And so that's like coming back to your true self. So your purpose and values and all parts of you is your true self. Yeah. But then we pick up these limitations of you're too much, you're not enough. You have trauma that then creates walls and personas and coping mechanisms which protect and hide the true version of you. Yeah. So when we want to remove all those layers of who you think you need to be and should be and got to be and come back to who you truly are, that also ties back into the fulfillment authentic piece. And then the skills and strategies part, which is the third pillar. And that's where it's like, what's the plan? What are you achieving? How are you breaking it down? Tony Robbins, I heard this years ago, like 10 years ago when I first started my growth with Tony. And he said, success is the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. The science is like, it's measurable. There's sort of rules and foundational things you have to live by. Like to be relatively fit and healthy, there's calories, nutrition, training, sleep, hydration. Yeah. If you don't do those, like you're not going to achieve the things you want to. But then he talks about the art of fulfillment where it's unique to anyone. So what fulfills you? So you use experiences. I don't value experiences. Yeah. So I work, I go to the gym, I hang out with my wife, I hang out with my sausage dogs, I play video games, and I don't like traveling. I don't like doing experiences. Yeah. So that fulfills you. That doesn't fulfill me. And that's okay. That's our differences. That's our unique gifts. So blending all those together and learning how to prioritize those, and there's nuances within it, but those all put together is my inspired life method. And that's how you can know who you are, know what you truly want, know how you're going to get there practically, and we remove all those internal blocks that are going to stop you from getting there.
Yeah, I love that. And I have so many questions like in all of those pillars. So let's go back to the first pillar around purpose, because I feel like it's a massive generalization if I think, and you know, we're both building businesses and things like that. So I feel like we're probably, definitely on our path. But people that are potentially going to work and waking up doing the 9 to 5 that they hate, and then they're like, oh, I hate this. I just like, I don't know, I'm feeling unfulfilled and I don't know what my purpose is. Like, how do you tell someone or show someone to actually find their purpose in like maybe a employee kind of perspective? Yeah.
Look, your purpose is your purpose. I used to be super extreme with my business thoughts. So I started with network marketing. That's where I started back in the day. And I was like very extreme. If you don't quit your job, you're not full in. You're not committed to this business. So I'm not like that anymore. But I used to be like that. So it's like you got to pay your bills. So it's not like, oh, I need to find my purpose. I'm going to quit my job and then I can't pay my rent. I don't believe in that. It's like everyone's doing the best of what they have. Everyone right now has been the best version of their limited self. So it's like you're doing the best of what you have right now.
Yep.
So start with where you are, then find your purpose. I have a purpose process. It's a set of questions that you can find. It takes about 20 minutes to find it. Actually isn't that. Once you know the questions, once you have the formula, you can do it. I do that in my book, in my courses, my events. So once you find your purpose is an expression of your greatest core wound. I mentioned that earlier. Another way to say that is you become who you needed when you're at your lowest. So what was painful and you needed when you're at your lowest moment where you had your core wound, what you needed then, you become that version of that. Now you become that person. And then when you can learn how to give that back to others in a way you can get paid to do it, life is good. Now you can do that. There's 4 pathways I talk about. There's 1, work a job you hate, never change. Don't do this one. But again, if you're there right now and you got to pay the bills, do what you need to do. Then around work, pay your bills. There's benefits to what you're doing. There'll be opportunities, networking, the financial part, of course. But outside of that, then start to do some inner work, invest into yourself, do courses, books, podcasts, like whoever's listening to right now. And then second pathway is build a career or business aligned with your purpose and values. Because I believe everyone could be an entrepreneur, not everyone's willing to. And it's because of sacrifice, effort, the uncertainty, the facing off with your triggers and all the shit. So it's like just not everyone's willing to do that, and that's totally fine. Like I'm sure there's sometimes you've thought like, fuck mate, why the fuck am I doing this? Why don't I just go get a job? It's so much easier. Like all this risk and all this judgment. So that's the second pathway. Third pathway is build a business that gives you financial freedom and leverage to do what you want. So it's not necessarily a business that you're super passionate about. It's purely for making money. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I did that with the gyms when I was in that world. And then fourth is build a purpose-led business. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, when what you do is the fullest expression of who you are, you will do your life's best work. Yeah. So when you know your purpose, you know your values, you know your gift, and you give it back to others in a way that you can get paid to do it, life is good. Yeah. So they're the 4 pathways you can choose from. Don't judge yourself for where you are. You're doing the best of what you have with the skills that you have, the mindset that you have, and all those things. But if you then want to change, you got to change. If you want, what Jim Rohn says, if you want life to get better, you got to get better. So that's where take that ownership, take that responsibility. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're already taking some great steps. And then start to just work towards the thing that you want. Start to do the books, start to do the podcast, come to events, do the thing. Just work on yourself. Yeah. Figure out what you need to move towards what you want, and you'll get there eventually.
So inner work, it's a pretty broad topic, and I love your content, and I've been following you now for years as well.
Thank you.
And you speak a lot into triggers, trauma, self-sabotage.
Done your homework. Love it.
Yeah, well, I don't actually know if you know this. Yeah. Like when I first moved to the Gold Coast, probably about nearly 4 years ago, I was trialing gyms around the coast.
Oh, just come down for a trial.
I did.
Hey, nice.
And you were there.
Nice.
So that's
which one?
how.
Burley?
Yeah, the one at Burley, which is now changed.
Yeah, that the franchise went bankrupt. So yeah, that's a hectic story, but. Yeah. We can talk about that if you want, but that was hectic. That's funny. Your face does look familiar, so that's and obviously I've met you since then. Yeah. But what was I like back then? What was your perception of me back then? Oh my god! Because I was like hustle porn back then. Okay. No judgment. Say whatever you want.
Okay, so and also knowing that this is a reflection of me. So when I first moved to the Gold Coast, I moved here for a reason.
Yep.
I need to change my environment. Yep. I was living in Brisbane and I was like, do you know what? I need to change. I've always wanted to live at the beach. Yep. I'm just going to do it. I didn't know anyone. Yep. I just bought a place and I was just go all in, right?
Love it.
And then so I was like, okay, I want to find community and I want to find a gym.
Yep.
Trialing different gyms. And then I came into yours and you're so confident as a person. Yep. And I was pretty guarded back then. Yep. Like I was like, this is my bubble. Like, why are you in my bubble?
Did I try hugging you?
And yeah, you did. Yeah. You came in, you gave me this big hug and stuff like that. Oh my God, like, welcome. Yeah. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Yeah. And you were so warm and you're like, what are your goals? Like, what's this and stuff like that, which is great. Yeah. And that's what you want from a trainer, right? Yeah. I wasn't used to that. Yeah. So I found it pretty confronting. Cool. And then once I've gone so deep into like personal development and obviously knowing that was me, right? Yep. And the walls that I had up and not receiving that at the same time. And it's interesting, before I started bumping into you again in various events, like I still remember that and how I reacted, and it was just purely me. And yeah. Like that I did all this work and now I'm just like, yeah, cool, give us a hug. Like,
I'm such a hugger now. Yeah, I'm such a hugger, full stop. So yeah.
But and it's nice though, like even when I meet people, I'm like, oh yeah, go in for a hug and stuff like that. But yeah, that was like, it was interesting because it really triggered me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reflection. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. Let's just go down triggers, because like that's probably a really good example as well, because like everyone has triggers and it's not about the other person. Yeah. It's always about the individual and the experience that they're having. Yep. So what's your definition of triggers and how do they play out in everyday life?
Yeah, a trigger is revealing a part of you haven't worked on. So there's two things that create a trigger, and then there's 2 types of triggers. So I'll go top down. So you will attract people and circumstances to reveal where you haven't healed, and nothing triggers you. It reveals what's inside of you. Outside of fight or flight. If a tiger walks into this room, we're both going to get triggered. Yeah. But that's fight or flight. So Peter Crone has this really great quote. He says, if it's not ego threatening, it's just life. Sorry, if it's not life threatening, it's just ego threatening. So if you're not actually in danger, like someone's got a gun to your head, someone's about to beat you up, you're about to get hit by a car or something. If you're not actually in danger and you're triggered, it is something within you being revealed. Now, what can it be? It will be a limiting belief, or it will be a trauma. Trauma, my definition of trauma, is a trait or a behavior that was bad, wrong, too much, or not enough. It's someone did something or didn't do something that was bad or wrong. And we can break that down in a moment. So when you get triggered, it's revealing a part of you that you haven't worked on, either a trait or a behavior you haven't healed, or a limiting belief. Let's use some examples. So limiting beliefs, I use religion as an extreme example of this. It's like, think of someone, and it might be you as the person listening. Are you heavily religious by any chance? So do you know anyone who's like, this is my religion? If I went up to that person and said, your religion is full of shit, it's wrong, it's a lie, it's a cult, it's a scam, and they were very rigid with their beliefs, they would probably get triggered by that because I'm challenging a belief of theirs. So if you get triggered, someone's challenging a belief of yours, and I cop that all the time with my content, with all the things I talk about. There's some, if you want some popcorn content, go read the comments of some of my videos. The second part is a trait. So trauma is a trait or a behavior, and it will be, I'll list out some. There's 4,628 traits that human beings can display. So whatever ones you think are bad, wrong, or too much or not enough at some point, you get triggered or activated by them. Common ones that I've dealt with my clients: rejection, abandonment, criticism, control, manipulation, dismissing, lying, anger. List goes on. Now the two types of triggers. So there's two things that will trigger you: limiting beliefs and traits or behaviors, trauma. Then the two types of trigger are these. When you perceive someone or something that reminds you of the trauma, it will trigger you. Let's use an example so this can be practical. I'm going to ask you a question about your parents. Don't judge your answers. I'm sure you love your parents, but just answer the questions. Which parent do you dislike the most, if you had to answer it?
My dad.
Beautiful. In one word, what's the thing you dislike most about dad?
Anger.
Beautiful. So you have an anger wound. So when someone's angry towards you, it will trigger you. Now, so that's one type of the triggers. The other type is you will subconsciously try to protect yourself from experiencing that wound again. So you will, if someone's like, maybe you avoid conflict as an example. So if, say, you want to tell someone something, but you think they're going to get angry, you'll try not to do it. I don't want to get anger because that's painful. So they're the two types of triggers. It's you experience it and it activates you, or you subconsciously get anxious or fearful or whatever it is because you're trying to protect yourself from it. This becomes the glass ceiling. So when people say, I get in my own way, I keep sabotaging my stuff, is you're trying to protect your wounds, or back to the limiting beliefs. Your ego is your human identity. Your ego avoids pain and proves itself right. So it reinforces its own limitations. So the sabotaging patterns, how they play out is you've got coping mechanisms from trauma where you get triggered, or you're protecting yourself from it, or you're reinforcing your own beliefs. I'm going to prove to myself that I'm not enough. And then you fuck up whatever you fuck up. So that's my answer.
Yeah. It's interesting you said about the anger. It's because you were bang on right there. And how it all played out, like in my early 20s and stuff like that, and the people I was attracted into my life as well. And then when I started going deep into this work, and I remember a friend got really angry at me, like to the point was talking down to me, like he's 6'7" or 6'8".
What's the trait? So when he's talking down to you, say that in one word. What was he doing?
Anger.
Anger, cool.
Yeah.
It might have been like demoralizing or criticizing or condescending. It might have been other traits. There's surrounding traits, but keep going with what you're saying.
And I remember him doing that, and I held it like so much. And I was like, I used to be like, just agree with them to shut them up, so then I could walk away and go, yeah, cool, like I don't care enough to actually fight this. And I was like, hang on, no, this is not right. And through that, it made me realize how much of like the anger that I had been pushing away. And so then I started like actively working on that as well. And it's just opened up so much more, like in terms of relationships, the people I'm attracted into my life. And it's not as if like people are angry at me or like there's conflict or anything like that. But you now have healthy discussions that, you know, you can say your points of view and you don't have to agree, or you can just lean into the discomfort of the conversation.
When you heal those parts, the resistance to the trait, because whatever traits you have resistance to, you think they're bad, you will try to be the opposite of the trait. So instead of being angry, it might be nice or loving or soft or sweet or something like that. And once you then heal that part, or you do a process on that trait, then the resistance to the trait goes away. Then you'll stop being triggered by it. You will stop getting triggered by it. And you'll be okay embodying and expressing it. Because it's a big claim and people get triggered by it. Something to work on. But I don't believe there's a single bad trait. And people say abuse, abandonment, anger, rape, assault, selfish, controlling, all the things. It's have you seen the movie Evan Almighty? It's got Bruce, Jim Carrey, and Morgan Freeman in it. I actually posted the video this morning on my Instagram. And the clip is, I'm going to reword the clip, but the message is the same. It's like when this woman's complaining about life and Morgan Freeman playing God comes over to this woman and says, when you wish for strength, you don't get given strength. You get given problems and challenges that make you strong. When you wish for love, you don't get given love. You often receive people who are unloving towards you. So it's like the traits that are quite bad have given you things that you needed to receive that bad trait to receive it. Yeah. And that's the gift of the trait. So, once you balance or heal that part, you'll embody it more. You won't have shame towards it. You won't try be the opposite to it. And then the triggers and all the coping mechanisms and resistance, it just goes away. And that's the work.
When I used to think about like healing and trauma, in the past, I used to go, I'm good. Like I'm happy. I'm content. Yep. Thinking that for trauma or inner work, you had to go through like a significant
big T trauma.
Yeah, exactly right. Where trauma can be like, you move from one relationship to the other and you don't take the lessons, so then the same pattern repeats. So how would you actually describe trauma or healing?
Great work. Great question. So so trauma for me is quite a spectrum. Trauma is a lopsided perception towards a trait. So that's very Demartini for anyone that's into his work. So whatever traits and behaviors you think are bad. Yeah. And because at the extreme end, that could be abuse, abandonment, rejection, narcissism, even though for me, narcissism is a label to describe many traits, and people get triggered when I say that as well. So whatever traits and behaviors you get triggered by or you think are bad, those are your lopsided perceptions. And depending how emotionally charged you are towards it, you could then label it as trauma. Yeah. So trauma, for me, trauma is a moment in time where a trait or a behavior was bad, wrong, too much, or not enough. Yeah. And depending how much resistance or emotional charge is in that moment, that it's quite more traumatic than others. And that's where a book, You're Not Broken by Dr. Sarah Woodhouse, she categorizes as big T traumas and other T traumas. Yeah. It's just wherever you get triggered. And people say, I've got no trauma. I say, I've never met a single human who's not triggered. Yeah. Because the trigger is revealing it. So, and when you get triggered, the best thing to do, actually, I'll do it with you as a practical example, but for the listeners listening to it, do it yourself. Think of the last time you got triggered. When's the last time you got triggered?
Yesterday.
Beautiful. Go to the moment and close your eyes if it helps for the listeners as well. Go to the moment when you got triggered. Tell me what happened when you got triggered.
Talking about business and just having different opinions on the vision and the path.
Cool. And what did the other person or people involved, what did they do or not do when you got to trigger you?
Listen.
Beautiful. So they didn't listen? Beautiful. So what's the trait that they did? So in that moment, what were they doing or not doing that triggered you?
Not listening and me feeling like that they were putting their opinion on me.
Cool. So say that in one word. You said not listening. So there's kind of two traits here. Say not listening in one word. Invalidation sounds like something.
Yeah.
Dismissing, invalidating, suppressing.
Dismissing.
Beautiful. So you have a wound around dismissment or being dismissed. Yeah. So when people dismiss you, it triggers you. Now that will come from a moment in time where someone dismissed you and it was painful. Yeah. Now, depending how emotionally charging that is, that could be quite trauma or just a moment that pissed you off. Yeah. So to circle up your question is any traits or behaviors that you think are bad and you get triggered by is something you haven't worked on. And again, how much charge goes into it, you could call it trauma or a lopsided perception.
And like with that particular scenario yesterday, like, and this is why inner work is so good, because like you can catch yourself in those moments when you can feel it in your body, but then it's like the conversation that you have after that. So I was able to communicate that and we were able to have an open conversation about it and go, this is how I'm perceiving this to be and vice versa. And then we had like a really positive outcome. So how do you set up that type of relationship where, because if you're feeling triggered, you can't just go, oh my God, I'm feeling triggered, stop what you're doing type thing. Like you have to be in a safe environment at the same time where you are kind of being seen and that. How do you actually build that safety with someone else, whether it's in like a romantic relationship or even at work or in a friendship?
So always take ownership on your own stuff. So when you get triggered, it's for you to work on. And I do talk the difference of triggers and boundaries. So like I use this cliche example all the time, but at home, I work from home. When my door is closed to my office, my boundary or expectation is my wife doesn't come inside because I'll be working with clients, I'll be doing things, I'll be in flow, whatever. Say she barges into me whilst I'm on a call or something. If I turn around and snap at her and get triggered and say, get the fuck out of the office or whatever, I could say. That's a trigger. That's me. I get to take the ownership of that, and I get to work on that later.
Yeah.
Because I could say, "Hey, babe, is everything okay? What's going on? Look, I'm busy right now. I'll be with you in 30 minutes." Like, why couldn't I do that? Because the first example, I got triggered. So there are differences between triggers and boundaries. So don't dismiss a boundary. So it's like, look, it's a boundary. But it's how you react to it. Are you reacting from a triggered space? So there's that that angle from it. But then I also talk about maintenance versus progress tools. Yeah. So, because at the moment, when you're in a meeting, in this thing, like life doesn't give a fuck how you feel. Business don't care if you triggered or not, right? So the show must go on. Like you must continue, right? Yeah. So it's like if I get triggered right now, it's like fuck, we're recording, we're on. So so maintenance tools is what do you do in the moment to maintain yourself through the moment. So for me, breathwork is my favorite one. Yeah. So I'm a breathwork facilitator with Chris and Shani that you're having on the podcast soon. Did you have them on or you having them on? Had them on. So I did my training with them, and for me, I love doing a diaphragm reset. So you breathe really slow, slow down your breathing, do box breathing, push into your diaphragm, and also reframe the situation. So that's what you can do in the moment to get through it. Yeah. There's also Tony Robbins, the triad, change your state. Fanny, and the triad, it's focus, physiology, and what's the other one? Language. So what do you tell yourself? What do you focus on, and how you move in your body? So that's the triad, and I anchor click in. If you notice, I click all the time. So I've anchored confidence to click in. So those are my two favorite tools to do maintenance tools. Yep. So in the moment, you got to get through it. So, and I never heal anything in the moment. Yep. Show must go on. So get through the storm, whether you're at work or whether you're at home and you've triggered each other with your partner. Yeah. Welcome to relationships, by the way. That's meant to happen. I don't focus on healing in the storm. Get through the storm and then self-reflect to find what was revealed, then process it. And then, so maintenance tools, get through the moment. Progress tools is we identify what was triggered and revealed to start with and then heal through it. Because depending on the tool, and this is where I've had a bit of a dig at breathwork and just some tools, because if you just keep doing maintenance tools, you never do the progress tools. Yeah. So, and I've done videos on this, and just to disclaim that, there's no ultimate martial art, only the ultimate martial artist who knows every martial art and uses the right one at the right time to get the right result. Yeah. So breathwork does work at the right time and right place. But if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yeah. So I've had people who, in the spiritual circles, they do plant medicine every fucking weekend. They do breathwork every weekend. It's like, yes, for example, say you get triggered and then you breathe through it and you maintain yourself, you get through it. Fantastic. If you never reflect to find what got triggered and you never actually address that, the same thing's going to get triggered again. And that's where you keep repeating the same problems. You repeat problems until you learn the lessons. It's there to teach you. So that's why right tool, right time. When you're triggered, don't heal, just breathe, get through the moment, have the meeting, have the phone call, do the thing. Then when you got some time and space, reflect and do a progress tool to remove the limiting belief, to heal the trait or wound. And then that same thing won't trigger you again. Yeah. And then the next thing will pop up and then we heal through that. And then that's the journey of healing.
Actually, Chris and I did speak about that in the podcast, where people just try and mindset it straight away, where it's like, okay, first of all, you're coming from a dysregulated state. So regulate your nervous system first, and then that's when the mindset comes into play and actually makes sense of it as well, because otherwise the same shit's going to come up.
And because when you don't see things the way they are, you see things the way you are. If you're in a triggered state, you see hurt, you see fear, you see anxiety, all those things. So come back to baseline, come back to neutral. It's like in my work, I do an emotional regulation piece. So I teach in my preferred sequence so far for most people, values, purpose, mission, vision, teach inner work, the different bodies, the 5 bodies to heal through. I do a regulate emotions and nervous system, which is everything I just said, breathe, diaphragm reset, and reframe the situation. And then get into inner work. So then when you are doing inner work, when your emotions do come up, because that's probably going to happen, when you need to, because there are moments in my processes where I actually get people to feel the emotions. So there's no, because that's part of the emotional body, to get those suppressed emotions out of you.
Feel it.
Feel it. Healing's in the feeling, right? Yeah. So feel it, but then when it's time to then move on to the next part, let's get back to baseline. Let's keep pushing forward. So right tool, right place.
Do you think you can ever fully heal?
No, I don't believe it. That's my belief. I'm just yet to see anyone.
Yeah.
The only caveat I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it, is like people that meditate all day, like monks. Yeah. But I would say that
got time for that, seriously.
But that's me. I would argue that they're not showing up to life.
Yeah.
That's dissociation.
It's like a void.
It's voiding. Yeah. So if you and me just meditate all day and don't show up, so to reframe it, if you're someone who's living life and you're showing up on your edge is like your comfort zone, on the edge of your comfort zone to get uncomfortable, you're going to have triggers, wounds, things come up. The more work you do, though, they obviously become more subtle. So I used to get super triggered in social settings. I have wounds around anxiety, awkwardness, rejection, judgment, criticism, those used to trigger me a lot. So I used to get super triggered going to social settings, to even like a podcast like this, but I've done processes on them. So they don't trigger me anymore.
Yeah.
It's like they just become more subtle. Like it's a projection of like, it's like how you like you walk into a room and you don't like someone for some reason. You might not hate them. It's not like you're going to go attack them, but it's like you repel to the other side of the room. It's like you go to the gym and there's just someone at the gym. You just don't like them. You're like, I just don't vibe with you. Okay. What's the trait or behavior? The two questions. What are they doing or who are they being that you don't like? One word answer. There'll be a trait or a behavior. Are they weird? Are they creepy? Are they awkward? Are they strange? Are they fake? Are they hypocritical? What are they doing or not doing? And that is a part of you haven't healed yet.
Yeah.
Perception's a projection. So you're projecting onto them a part of you haven't worked on yet. And that's the mirror where you get to come back to you and work on you.
And really, like, I believe if you can understand that particular concept, like, that is the gateway to all of this inner work, because everyone that is walking around, what you see in them, you see in yourself, and you just need to work through that.
Yeah,
so,
that's where people say, where do I don't know where I need to heal next. Just when did you get triggered last?
Yeah.
Who don't you like? Who wouldn't you want to hang around with? Who pisses you off? Who wouldn't you? Yeah. Who would you not want to spend time with right now? Who would you hate to sit next to right now? And I normally start with parents, because the reason parents is because when you're younger, you're more sensitive. Yeah. So it's like you come home, you're 5 years old from preschool, whatever, year one, however old you are, and you've spent all day making this little painting, and it looks like absolute shit. And you run home, and you're like, oh my god, mum and dad, I've made this little painting. It's so good, and it's like so, and they're like, from ages, I think I just read a parenting book. I'm gonna read it for kids later, but I think 0 to 3 or 5. I know 0 to 7 is the imprint zone, but I think 0 to 3 or 5, your parents are you, they're gods. So there's like they are everything to you. So say you come home from school, whatever, you got your painting, and you're like, oh my god, mum and dad, look at this, and they're busy. So business happened, career happened, car broke down. They're like, little Sally, I'm busy, go away. Rejection. You just had a rejection wound in that moment. Yeah. So when people reject you, it triggers you. So that comes back to your question, I haven't had those big T traumas. It can be little moments like that. That's why I generally start with parents, because and some parents get like, oh my god, I fucked up my kids. No. And to challenge that, I believe trauma is a gift once you heal it. Once you do a healing process on any trait or behavior that's bad, you open the gifts that come along with it, and then you stop, and all the things. So I don't know what that question was, but that's where we ended up.
Do you think that someone can fully heal?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I would love to meet someone who's never triggered, who shows up to life. Yeah. If I meet someone like that, well, there's 4,628 traits. I'm yet to, so let's say half of them are bad. So you'd have to do 2,314 processes on that. I've done like 20 start to finish processes where I sit down and do my balancing process, or a Demartini process, or a holographic process, start to finish. And I've done that 20 times start to finish, which takes about 45 minutes to 3 hours to do a full process. I've done 20 of those, and most of them with mum, dad, ex-partners, current partners, myself. And I do mini processes. So I've got like a mini shortcut process that you can do. I've probably done hundreds of those. So when you get that trigger, here's a shortcut version for people. When you get triggered in the moment, like I said, regulate, get through it. But a really nice one you can do after you, like, as soon as you have like 30 seconds of spare time, is 3 questions. What's the trait? What did this person do or not do that I don't like? They rejected me. They dismissed you in that example from before. Dismissed. Second question, where have I done the trait before? Own the trait. It's a part of you. And what we do is we block. That can be hard for people. Oh, I've never done that. Bullshit. You're just hiding it. That's your strategy. You're trying to keep it a secret. So find 5 references of you doing the trait. Third question, what's the benefit to this person doing the trait to me right now? You do that, you'll neutralize your mind very quickly, and then you can move on a lot easier. I do that all the time, because I'll have those mirror moments where I judge someone, like, oh, what is it? Or awkward, hypocrite, cringe, whatever the thing is. I share this funny story. I drove out of my complex about a year ago, and I was driving. I'm at a red light, and I get a green light, and now I'm turning to like turn right. Someone who's on the other side of the other set of lights starts to like inch their way forward through a red light into where I'm driving. So like they're about to hit me. So I like drive through, and I look in like over to them like, what the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing?
And this lady's like super sour face, has her finger at me out the window, and I'm like, and I got triggered a little bit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I've got anyway. So I'm like, what's the trait? Anger. Easy. Where have I been angry before? Boom, nailed it out. What's the benefit of her being angry to me right now? She woke me up. She put a smile on my face. She made me more conscious. She helped me be more conscious and more aware of myself. She helped me heal a little bit more. Beautiful. And then I got to move on with my day. I didn't then like, fuck you. And then I didn't even toot back or whatever. So it's like that reflection moment, that mini little process I just talked through, allows you to stay pretty poised throughout your day, so you don't have these huge emotional swings.
And I think that that's a really valid point, where when we're in those moments, we can externalize it and we can kind of slip into, I don't want to say victim mentality, but in a way it's like that blame game, right? Like you could have gone, oh my God, that's your fault and stuff like that. But it's like, it's actually an internal reflection. So how can you bring it back to yourself and go, well, it's actually not about them, it's about me.
Nothing triggers you. It reveals what's inside of you.
Yeah.
So I think it's, I got it from Joe Dispenza, but his like definition of victim is anything external affects you internally. That is the definition of victim. Something external has affected me internally. So that sort of encapsulates outside of real fight or flight. I would put that caveat there again. Outside of real fight or flight.
And this is where I think it's really powerful to understand what's in your control, what's out of your control. Like comes back to tiger or whatever. But what's in your control? So I have control of how I react and how I behave, my thoughts and everything like that. So if you're trying to externalize that to a partner or a colleague or a friend or something like that, it's not about them, it's about you. Yeah.
And there's that nuance to the boundaries part as well, though. So it's, again, I'm not saying, because some people take the work of like, okay, if I'm just never triggered, I'll just allow people to walk all over me and never stand up for myself. I didn't say that. It's like, if you're triggered, look within, work on you, but then also have standards and boundaries you have for yourself. So it's like, look, I love you. It's like say hypothetically my wife does something, she just, I get home from this podcast and she just starts like attacking me and yelling at me. I'd say, are you okay? What's happened? Like regulate what's happened. Are you triggered? I always give grace, because you don't know what's happened in the day. First, start with love, start with empathy. And then afterwards, if say she just kept doing it, I'd say, look, I love you, my love, and I want to be with you, but I don't appreciate the way you're treating me. If you continue to do this, I'll be looking at moving away or ending this relationship or this marriage, because that's a boundary for me. But so again, just that caveat with boundaries and triggers as well.
And it's interesting because like you have to, you're always constantly telling people how to treat you and stuff as well by what you accept. And so it's about communicating that as well. So if like that, like as you said, your partner like overstood a boundary, it's up to you to communicate that. Otherwise she'll keep doing it. And then she'll think that you're accepting that.
Well said. You're getting life what you tolerate. So I've got this, I've got a module in my community of setting healthy boundaries, and it's along the lines of like give them a script of how to do it. It's like, hey friend or hey person, it's like, look, I just want to let you know in case you're not aware, because they might not even be aware that's the boundary for you. Like you said, some people just like kind of suck it up and people please and bite their tongue and not speak because they might be protecting themselves from rejection or a wound or something. So I love that. I love what you said.
Yeah. How did you get into this work? Because like I love this work so much, and it's a really passion of mine as well, and from my upbringing and all my life experiences as well. How did you get here? It's a pretty big question. I know.
There's the practical, like what were like the sort of checkpoints throughout my career and journey. I can do that, or the sort of my purpose was like my core wound. Like
let's talk through your purpose.
My core wound is hurt, rejection, and misunderstood. So that was, I got diagnosed with Asperger's, autism, ADHD. Autism and Asperger's get categorized under the same banner these days. Back then, not. Had a lot of mental, emotional, physical abuse through upbringing, through parents, and I just struggled a lot with my nervous system. I was really dysregulated. I struggled with connecting with people, so relationships and communication and learning was painful. I was in learning disabled classes. My handwriting's still fucked to this day. If you read my handwriting, it's still horrible. I was the last person in my grade to get a pen license, if you remember those things. And so those were all like the seeds that were planted. So those are the core wounds that will become meaningful to me now. So that's the why part. So purpose. So core wound is hurt, rejected, misunderstood. Purpose, that's the core wound. The expression of that, my purpose, is to heal and raise consciousness, and then the mission, which I spoke about before. So that's the reason why I've ended up here. Whenever you get tears of inspiration, you're perceiving a piece of your purpose. So they're the breadcrumbs the universe is leading you. And second to that, it would just be when you feel inspired, you feel energized, you feel just your heart open just a little bit. So if you just listen and follow what inspires you, you're going to end up doing what you love, and you'll end up doing your purpose. It's just most people aren't conscious of the breadcrumbs. So doing my purpose process and values and all those things speeds that up. So it just gives you all that awareness so you can go execute. The practical sort of way that looked like, I became an overachiever, tried to prove my worth to the world by overachieving because I thought I wasn't enough, had invalidation wounds, I wasn't enough wounds and all those things. Semi-professional athlete, it was the path I went down. So it was NRL rugby league for Australian listeners. I was contracted with the Brisbane Broncos when I was 13 or 14. And then I was for 2 or 3 years, and then I transferred to the Titans, and I was contracted with them from 16 to about 18. And then when I was 18, I repeated year 12. My school did a 3-year senior, so you do 11 and 12 over 3 years just to spread out the study, because I was good at school and I was good at sports, so it was a lot. I was doing like biology, physics, Maths B, OP English. I did a diploma in fitness plus training 3 times a day, so it was like hectic to keep up with it all. And I wanted to be a high school teacher and a personal trainer. That was my vision back then. So it's so crazy how it come from there. Then I wanted to get into the fitness industry, got into that, and that was like the floodgates opened, because I came down to PLC, the gym that you popped down to many years ago. And I started with work experience. I worked for free for 2.5 years and ended up buying into half of PLC Burley. That was my first studio. Bought into that when I was 20, and then I was the uninformed optimist back then, so I was just like yes, say yes to everything. I opened up a second one at 21. I remember I got the keys to that on my 21st birthday. Bought into a third one when I was 22. So I had 3 gyms at 22, built that up. I had 15 team members. We're doing over $1 million a year, and that's revenue. We were barely profitable because we were stupid entrepreneurs back then. Then hit a breaking point. I shared it in my book. Just phone call just broke me into tears. I collapsed on the ground just crying because I couldn't see a way out. Gave one of my businesses away. I then went through COVID with 2 gyms. That was so much fun. So that was hectic. And then I ended up selling PLC Burley, the one that you came down to. I sold that back to the franchise. The franchise went under. And then I had 1 studio left. And then I hired myself out of it. So I was earning 2 to 3 grand a week at the age of 24 or 25 for 1 hour of work. So I had a lot of freedom, not like a ton of financial freedom, but I had a lot of time to do what I wanted. And that led me to just go deeper. And I was always doing a lot of self-growth. So I was doing Tony Robbins, masterminds, courses, books, programs, mentorships. I was doing a ton of growth in that same time period. And I just got a lot deeper on vision, on values, on purpose. And like, I just followed that inspiration. I followed those breadcrumbs and led me to where I am now. And I started coaching full-time in this fashion for about 3 years. I sold my last studio it was November, not last year, the year before. So about a year and 2-3 months ago, I sold my last one. And I've just been doing this full time, and I've spent the first year trying to figure out my business model, because I've come from a franchise where they pretty much tell you what to do, where it's like, I don't know, there's so many options, like what type of business I want to build. So I started saying I've been doing one-on-one coaching. I don't think I'll ever stop doing that. I only take on 2-3 clients at a time. And I still to this day still do those. I started selling. I did a weekend online event. I did a 10-week challenge. I did an 8-week challenge. Then I started selling high ticket courses, and it was a $5,000 program, and the income shot through the roof. I was making 50 to 100 grand a month off it, but the completion rate of the course was very low, and I didn't like that. I could have kept going and made more money, but I wanted the impact of it. So I switched over to school. So I switched over before Hormozi came into it, and then Hormozi came into it. I was such a Hormozi fan because I was following him in the gym days. So I was part of his gym crew back in the day, his Facebook group back in the day. So I switched over from the high ticket one-off course to a reoccurring school community with and it's way more value for money. It's so much better. It's $50 a month compared to $5,000, and you get better content, reoccurring content, more support, so much better. Last year I wrote a book, released that last October, I think, or November. And now I'm stepping into events. So I'm just piecing together how do I want to bring my gifts and my impact to the world. Some people love online courses. I love online courses. Some people love books. I like books. Some people love events. I love events. So I'm trying to touch and help people in all ways that people enjoy it, because some people won't do events, some people don't do books, some people don't do online programs. So I want to have obviously in a business that I enjoy. For service-based businesses, I love simple, fun, highly profitable. So I want to sort of keep that in mind, but I want to help people in a way that's meaningful to me. And events is the next piece for me for this year.
What was the pivotal moment for you of change that you're you know what, something's got to, something has to change? There was
there's always mini moments as well. So there's a couple that stand out. That phone call when I broke down, and it kind of forced me to literally that. My business partner, he's what do you want to do? Because we're trying to sell one of them. So one of them, we're trying to sell it. Had a buyer. Took us 12 months to get the yes to he's going to buy it. So 12 months of and I had 3 studios. I was living off 4 hours of sleep, financially stressed, relationship on the rocks. I was in a really shit spot. And got a yes after 12 months. And then there was a cooling off period of like 14 days. On like day 13, he pulls out, and that was the phone call. So that was a big like, what am I going to do? And it like forced me to look within and do more work. A bigger one is when I actually sold the second studio. So I sold the second studio, PLC Burley, back to the franchise. And I still had the other PLC at the time, the other franchise gym at the time. And the franchise was like starting to go under. Like I could see a lot of the cracks of like, it wasn't going to, I'd be surprised if it made it through. And the owner of the franchise, he pretty much gave me a really great opportunity. He's like, man, do you want to come and build this up? Like I started with him early days, back when I did the work experience, it was with him. So me and him were like best mates, built it up, I was pretty early on and helped get a lot of the foundational stuff in place. And yeah, he just like gave me an opportunity. He's like, man, I want you to come in and help me build it out. Like there'll be heaps of profit there for you. You can have shares in this. Like it was a really good opportunity. And it's like, I just spent 7 years of like doing this, opened 3, gave one away, sold another one back to the franchise. I got one now, and I'd already hired myself out. So I was already, I'm out. I've got time to then do whatever. And I remember I was just like really conflicted because I had the friendship part as well. Cause like I had a lot of friendship wounds I hadn't healed yet. So it's like, I wanted to go back, but a part of me, my intuition, which is the breadcrumbs, which is like your intuition is trying to always keep you on path and balanced and trying to heal you. It's like that inner voice that's whispering to you. And yeah, I remember it really rocked me. It's like, I originally said I kind of want to, but I need some time. Yeah. I actually went and did a mushroom trip. So that was, I hired an Airbnb and just took a weekend away and just did a trip. And I remember, and it's like for people that are into psychedelics, it's like, you don't need them to get the answers. It just kind of amplifies it. But I was just like, I was in the trip, like the mushrooms kicked in and I just like, what do I do? And like within 2 seconds, it's like, you know what you want to do. And it's just, so I said no to that. So that was a big sort of shifting point. It was like kind of cutting ties with that. It's like, I'm no longer going back into that. I'm going to go all in on this. So that was 4-ish years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. So that was a big one. Like I said, shifting my business model was great because it's like when I started making 50, 100 grand a month, I'm like, this is sick. Like, this is cool. Then change my business model around because you have a big dip and then you come back up. The book was a huge thing. I remember I did an exercise, really cool exercise. Oh, I actually found, ironically, I found the piece of paper to it like 2 days ago because I just cleaned out some off my office. I did an exercise with Cody, my mentor at the moment, and you sit down and he says, you've got 6 months to live. What do you do? And that was it. And you just have to start writing. What do you do? And the first sentence was, I finally write the book I've been talking shit about for 5 years. So, because I tried to write it, I attempted to write it and failed. I failed to write it, to be honest, like 3 times. I remember I had like the first couple of chapters written and I just kept kicking the can down the road, go back to business, go back to the gyms, whatever. And once you've done the exercise, he says pretty much, these are your values that you've been procrastinating on. I was like, oh, fuck you. And then that was like January like 5th. That moment, I like canned all of my big goals and said, I'm writing this book. And it's like, I joke about like, if you want instant gratification, don't write a book. It's like, because like I'm starting to get like a return on it now. I'm selling about 15 copies a day, all organically, and great reviews, and people are reading the book, then coming to work with me afterwards. But it's like, that was over 12 months ago. Like it's January 2025 now. And I started that January 2024. So I spent 1,500 hours writing that bad boy, just myself, plus my editor's time and copywriters, all those things. So yeah, that was a big shift. So there's a couple of shifts there.
What was your biggest lesson that you learned while writing your book?
Ones that stood out is focus. I literally, like for the ADHD humans, I literally would sit down and I'd throw my phone to this side of the room just so I don't touch it. Because it's like you'd hit a writer's block, and first thing, distraction. First thing, distraction. So focus. The biggest thing that I got that I see a benefit as is just refining how specific you need to be to write a book. So my coaching ability got so precise. So I've just felt like I've told coaches and people that do like sort of service-based businesses, write a book without the intention of selling it, just to get the distilled thoughts down. Because it's like, you'll notice the way I talk, I'll go on tangents, come back to this, come back to that, and kind of circle back to the central point. You can't do that in a book. It's like, a genius knows how to teach more with less. It's like, how do you, who actually said this? I forget the person, but it's like, he wrote this letter and it's like, I apologize for the length of this letter. If I had more time, it would be shorter. So how do you get your message across with the shortest amount of words possible, which is like the opposite of my talking style, where I like to share stories and dance around and go on tangents. So just being able to forcing yourself to sit down and like, okay, here's like the impact I want to have. Here's the lessons I want to teach, values, purpose, vision, healing, all those things. What are the examples? What are the metaphors? What are the images? What are the things that I'm going to specifically say to get these lessons across? Yeah. So that was phenomenal. So I really got that. I just feel like I upgraded my coaching ability tenfold by doing that. That's probably the biggest one. It's really good for business now because it's such a great lead magnet. It's just like, hey, look, I've got I've been doing like offers, like if you grab a copy of my book, I'll give you a free trial of my coaching. I'll give you this. So it's a great little lead magnet. We're starting to play around with like funnels for that now.
Yeah. And it's a great book. Like I bought it and also listening to the audio at the moment, and it's quite practical as well. It's like, oh yeah, I can implement those. Oh, okay, I can do the questions, because I think we live in a world where there's so much information, and we can listen to the podcast, we can listen to the read the books, we can do the courses and all the things, but it's actually like, how do I apply that to my life right now, and how do I create the change?
Something I'm huge on is that it's the mental masturbation. It's like I can feel motivated from a million podcasts, but I'm like, even in I do it in the book and I do it in my community, in my programs. It's like, let's teach it, but now do it. Yeah. Let's teach it. Let's do it. So I'm running an event in 2 weeks and we're doing the purpose process. What is purpose? You become who you need at your lowest. It's your core wound, la, la, la. Let's do the process right now. Yeah. And then I'll do limiting beliefs, trauma, triggers, all those things. We're doing a limiting belief process right now. So I'm very big on that because, I don't want it. I wanted the book to be for people to obviously impact. That was the ultimate goal. It's like, if someone never worked with me again, never saw my name again, never did anything else with me again, that book alone will give them transformation. So that was my intention going into it. So thank you for the feedback as well. Yeah.
What's 3 tips that you would give someone that's listening that they can implement into their life right now to change it?
Any just general people in general? Or any?
Let's just go people in general. Like, they're just going, I'm happy, I'm content, or, I just need to change. Like, what's top 3 things?
Top 3, my method. So find who you truly are. Yeah. So who's your authentic self? And for me, I define that as your values, your purpose, and mission and vision. Become conscious of the things that are limiting you and self-sabotaging you. Where do you have resistance emotionally? Yeah. Underneath that resistance, there's something for you to work on. And learn the skills. Learn what is it that you actually need to do and implement and execute on for you to get those things that you want. Yeah. So learn who you are and what it is that you want. Become aware of the resistance, the triggers, the projections, the negative resistance in your life, and address them. And then actually take action. Yeah. Do the best of what you have. Fix the plane as you fly it. So take the most amount of amazing action you can, imperfect action. Take action, do what you can with what you've got right now, but then continue to improve the plane or fix the plane by learning more skills, working on yourself more. Yeah, those would be my top 3.
Do you think there's a difference from someone who is successful and unsuccessful? Like, if there's particular traits do you think they're traits that they can be learned, or do you think that they're ingrained in who they are that makes someone successful and unsuccessful?
2 parts. It defines success. I would go back to that. So like, if someone's like, they're happy as fuck and they're living a quality of life that they're happy with, they're successful. So there's the external, like the art of fulfillment, science of achievement part. So define whatever your level of success is. I would say that. In terms of the traits to get there, I believe everything is a skill. Personally, I believe I got that from Jack DeLosa. So I believe everything is a skill that everyone can learn. Some people, it's like great salespeople. Are they natural born salespeople, or is it taught? It's both. It's like people that are natural born salespeople are just doing sales skills naturally. They just happen to do it naturally, where you could then train someone to do the same thing. So, what are those said traits? I'd say consistency. I'd say resilience. They're probably my top 2 because I'm going very Hormozi with this. It's just like know the highest leverage outcomes that you can focus on, which are aligned with your values, your purpose, and what it is that you do. You're aware of those resistance things, because if you're not following those actions and you're not doing the actions, you know what to do, you're just not doing it. That's something within you to address. Yeah. But having focus, being consistent, having resilience, and being willing to get uncomfortable, those are probably a couple of traits that I would suggest people trying out.
You've dropped Hormozi a few times in the podcast. Is he like one of your biggest inspirations, or do you have other people?
The top 3 I said, Tony Robbins is where I started. So he always have a soft spot for Tony Robbins. My number 1 mentor, if I had to pick one, would be Demartini. So Dr. John Demartini. Just the way his Demartini method shifted me. So complete, like my balancing process, which is my trauma process, how we balance those traits and those perceptions on the traits, it's built upon his Demartini method. So I'm a Demartini facilitator. There's it's like if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So there's limitations with every process, but from a mental and emotional perspective, it's fucking phenomenal. I think it's better than NLP. I think it's better than therapy, quite traditional therapy, talk therapy. I think it's the best process on the planet to heal mental limitations, judgments, resistance, quote trauma, but then I build upon it. So then I add like 3 or 4 different modalities into that process to create my balancing process. So Demartini would be number 1. It would probably be Hormozi, who'd probably be number 2. I'd probably put Joe Dispenza in number 3. Yeah, I love learning. Great. Yeah, I love Bruce Lipton. I love Wayne Dyer. Top 3 self-development books. Number 1 is The Breakthrough Experience by Dr. John Demartini, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, and Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Wayne Dyer. Obviously, he's passed away now. But I love learning. Like I love transformation and healing. That's probably my favorite topic to learn about. I love business, and that's where the Hormozi stuff comes into it. Business for me, I wouldn't say, like when people say, what do? I never say I'm an entrepreneur. I never say I run businesses. I say I'm a coach. So that's why the healing stuff interests me more. But business is the vehicle for me to give my coaching to the world. So a business essentially allows you, so it's like you're a pie maker. You love making a pie. I'm the pie maker. I'm the technician. I love doing the coaching part. Yeah. So I'm building a business that allows my business is a vehicle to give my pie making skills or my coaching to the world. So that's why I quite need to or want to learn the business skills. It's just so I can help more people. Yeah. And that's why I do enjoy the Hormozi stuff.
What do you do? This is just probably a bit of a random question. So I know that you're so passionate and you're so like in your coaching. Yep. So what do you do outside of that for you to just...
What do you think I do?
You said games, didn't you?
Yeah, thought you'd pick it up. Video games. Get into COD lately, loving COD. Yeah. So I was a big nerd growing up.
I have no idea of games, so like that goes straight over my head.
Call of Duty, so shooting game. Top 3, I'm a Pokemon fan, so I have, my brother got me Pokemon Crocs, so sometimes I rock those around. My partner it's our anniversary tomorrow for 5 years. She got me Pokemon undies. I'm not sure how to think about those. I've only worn them once. I like the intention, I like the thought, but I'm not sure about those ones. But yeah, I'm a big nerd deep down. So I love games. I love anime. Top 3 games in my career would be Pokemon when I was younger. Holy, I spent thousands of hours on my Game Boy. So I love Pokemon. Mario, just the whole Mario fucking ecosystem. Love Mario Kart, Mario Party. Love Mario. And then Call of Duty would be in there. That's the current one. I kind of go through like stages of like games, and other games too, like rugby league. I don't play that anymore. I've dislocated my knee too many times and over that, over the injuries. But I love table tennis, like any ball games I love, and video games and board games. So ball as in sporting games. We've been playing Categories lately. Have you played that?
Oh no,
so fun. I need like a affiliate code. It's so fun. It's essentially you get there's like these cards of different questions or categories. And everyone has the same card. So you've got, I think, on each is 15 or 12. It'll be like things you find on a university campus, things that are loud, things that smell, things where you can buy food from. And then you've got a dice and you roll the dice and it come up with a letter on the dice. And you got 3 minutes to get an answer for each of the things. But if anyone has the same answer as you don't get a point for it. So you're a bit more unique. So it's like a thinking game, but you got to, we've been binging on that lately.
That's awesome.
Monopoly Deal, we love Monopoly. We've played that a lot. So I love a good game. So games would be me.
Have you tried pickleball?
I love tennis and table tennis. I'm open to it. I haven't played it yet. So I think I would love it. I've played squash before, so I've definitely got the similar sports. So I think I would enjoy it. I just haven't, anyone in my circles hasn't done it.
Well, so. We tried it the other night.
Fun.
And so much fun because it's like a real mix of all of that. And I love tennis and table tennis as well. And I think we're going to get like a little social group together.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So we'll let you know.
I'm very competitive too.
Yeah.
So.
I know it does bring out your competitive streak because like you play nice and then you just like, when
the points are counted, when you're like, let's play a game, let's keep score, that's when dial in. Right. So, so gaming, board games, ball games, video games, that's kind of me outside of work.
Yeah, that's awesome. What question were you hoping that I would ask today that I didn't ask?
That's a good question. You kind of covered it. I like healing. I love purpose. I love business. So you've kind of danced around all of them. I don't have a specific question. What did not ask? Spoke about the book. You kind of covered all the things I like talking about, so I think you nailed it. I don't have anything.
That's awesome.
Good feedback.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I know that we could go on so many different rabbit holes with all of this stuff. So I appreciate you kind of touching on everything. And the book, I love it. It's a great book. So if you want to start somewhere, that's a good place to start as well.
Thank you. Pleasure. I appreciate what you're doing. I know we've bumped into each other so many times. It's inevitable. And I love that you're on a mission to spread more consciousness, awareness. I look forward to seeing where you go with this and taking this to the world.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.